All right. Could everybody please, let's have roll call before the pledge.
Jason Olive.
Here.
Barb Monston.
Here.
Joel Ward.
Here.
Kurt Roars.
Here.
Patty Serrano.
Here.
All right, thank you. Now we can do our Pledge of Allegiance and have a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. All right. Our next order of business is to approve the minutes of the April 12th, 2023 regular board meeting. Could I get a motion?
I move to approve the minutes of April 12th as presented.
Could I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Joel says aye. Next item is to approve and ratify payroll and accounts payable vouchers. Could I get a motion?
Mr. President, I move to approve and ratify payroll and accounts payable vouchers.
Thank you. Could I get a second?
Seconded.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Joel says aye. Next is correspondence. Mr. Narducci, is there any correspondence tonight?
President Olive, members of the board, there is no correspondence at this time.
All right, thank you. That brings us to our reports from our student body presidents. First, we have Ella from Castile High School.
Good evening, Mr. President, Mr. Narducci, and members of the board. My name is Ella Choi, and I am student body president at Castile High School. Tonight is my last presentation to you all, and I am so excited to share this amazing accomplishments our school has had since we last met. First, I would like to extend a huge congratulations to our choir and orchestra. They just returned from a national music festival competition in Nashville, Tennessee this past weekend, and we are so pleased to share that Castile won the overall sweepstakes award. This award is given to the school with the highest combined chorale and instrumental scores. They also won orchestra sweepstakes, school with the best overall orchestra scores, chorale sweepstakes, chorale with the best overall choir scores, Outstanding Choir Award, where judges pick the best choir at the festival regardless of category. Chorale won first place for their concert choir division. Encore won first for jazz choir division. Symphonic Orchestra won silver and first place for their division. And Chamber Orchestra won gold second place for their division. 3 students were also recognized for their individual efforts. Lily Marks for composition, Sarah Haynes for vocal jazz solo, and Deborah Dickinson for vocal jazz solo. We are so proud of them and cannot wait to see them compete again in the future. Castile's French Honor Society recently inducted 15 new members. The requirements for induction to French Honor Society are a 4.0 GPA in French and a 3.0 overall GPA. They also graduated 4 members who will wear the blue, white, and red honor cord at graduation next month. In addition to French language activities, this group has created the Culture Day presentation and collected 6,000 donations of classroom supplies for Raylan's Drive. Our baseball teamed up with Versus Cancer this year. We are so proud of their efforts to raise more than $1,000 for pediatric cancer research. They are currently ranked first in the 5A Santan region with an 8-1 record. Our men's volleyball is also first place in the 5A Santan region, and we can't wait to cheer them on in their game tomorrow against Campo Verde. Last but not least, our girls flag football is having an amazing season with an 8-1 record. This year we had the opportunity to host the first ever Clash Wars. This was a very exciting night, filled with games like tug of war, an inflatable obstacle course, and a huge relay race. We even got to aim water balloons at Mr. Narducci. Castile, Perry, Basha, Chandler, and ACP came together to compete for the title of the best senior class in the Chandler district. Obviously, Castile won. This was the start of a new tradition, and everyone had a lot of fun. I would like to highlight some of our amazing students at Castile High. Holden McCullough made AZ All-State Honor Orchestra. We did not have any students make it last year, so this was a big accomplishment for us. He's also the first student in the district to receive the Civic Seal. Ty Samrose placed third in environmental science at the Arizona Science and Engineering Fair. Also, Lorraine Osterling competed at the HOSA State Leadership Conference and placed first in job-seeking skills. She was awarded the HOSA Scholarship. Lorraine will also compete at the HOSA National Leadership Conference in Dallas, Texas in June, and we wish her the best of luck. We are also proud of our 38 seniors who earned the Personal Finance Diploma Seal. Also, Annalise Kisting was awarded the NROTC Scholarship for the United States Marines, which is a $400,000 full ride to the college university of her choice. Our school nurse, Ms. Brainerd, recently became a nationally certified school nurse with the Hope of Arizona School Nurse Assess program. This program is dedicated to increasing the number of Arizona school nurses meeting nationally recognized standards for providing excellent in-school nursing care. She's been our nurse since 2020, and we are so grateful for everything she does for us. We are so proud of all of them, and we cannot wait to support them in their future endeavors. We are currently in the middle of our prom week, which is themed Under the Tuscan Sky. We've had some fun spirit days, including airport attire, which is comfy clothes, a day at the Mediterranean Sea, which is beach day, and Romeo and Juliet, dressed as a celebrity. The dance is Saturday from 8 to 11 at Bella Rosa State, and we're excited to see everyone dressed up and looking forward to a memorable dance. Finally, I would like to thank you all for your dedication to our school district. After attending Castile High School for 6 years, I can confidently say that the opportunities and education that the Chandler District provides are unmatched. I have made so many memories that I will not forget. I also met some of my best friends here at the district office. If you haven't noticed yet, all the Chandler student body presidents have become pretty close this year. As for myself, I look forward to pursuing a degree in human and organizational development at Vanderbilt University in the fall. I'd like to thank my student government advisors, Ms. Fredrickson and Mrs. Culver. They make running the biggest student government in the Chandler District look easy and are truly some of the most outstanding human beings I got to work with in my high school career. I apologize I have to step out so soon. I have a scholarship interview at Hamilton in a few minutes. Thank you for your time, and I hope you have a great night.
All right. Thank you, Ella. So what is human development?
Human and organizational development, it's kind of like a study, it's like business without it's like more communications and studying systems.
All right.
I'm really excited.
So when you get that job and you have a desk, we have something that goes on your desk.
Oh my goodness, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Congratulations, we'll miss you. Thank you all.
All right, thank you, Ella. Next we have Camille from Chandler High School.
Good evening, Mr. President, Mr. Narducci, board members, and those here in attendance. Thank you for having me tonight. It is always a pleasure to be here and update the community on what goes on at Chandler High. Once again, my name is Camille Escobar, and I am the student body president at CHS. Our school has been incredibly busy with the end of the year just around the corner, and so without further ado, this is what CHS has been up to. We kicked off our last semester with our spring sports assembly. This was our last assembly, which consisted of our spirit commissioner, Allison Slater, and I as MCs, and both of our spring and winter sports. With our gym being under renovation in the winter, we were unable to have our winter sports assembly, but with some slight changes, we were able to include all winter and spring sports and introduce some fun games to our student body. Alongside that, we had great performances from our Pacific Islanders Club, Pom and Cheer, and Advanced Dance. It was such a great last assembly, and I'm very grateful to have had such a large part of our assemblies. CHS seniors participated in the first ever Clash Wars, which was hosted by Castile High School. CHS pridefully did take second place overall, and we're so happy to have participated. Castile truly did put on a great event, and we're so excited for next year. Student Council just hosted our annual Chandler's Got Talent show, which took place yesterday at 7 p.m. We had a variety of 10 acts ranging from singing, dancing, and even Rubik's Cube solving. They competed for a grand prize package, and it was truly a great competition. Our freshmen have been planning this event for months now, and we are so proud of how successful their first event was. Our prom is this Saturday, April 29th, at the Sunkist Warehouse in Mesa, and the theme is Viva Las Vegas. It starts at 8 p.m. and ends at 11 p.m. Our Stuco juniors have been planning this since the end of last school year, and we are excited to show off all of their hard work. Prom is a highly anticipated event for our juniors and seniors, and we know that it will be a night filled with cherished memories for years to come. If you happen to find yourself free this Saturday and want to experience a night in Vegas, then CHS Prom is the place for you, and we'll see you there. Our sports teams have been playing hard this season, with our baseball team, boys and girls track, boys volleyball, and girls flag football working their way towards the playoffs. We are wishing them luck for the rest of their season. We want to congratulate our Chandler FFA members who did very well at the Maricopa County Fair. They have worked tirelessly to get to this point, and we're so proud of them. Annabelle Williams is a junior at Chandler High School and is a member of the Chandler FFA program. She was awarded Grand Champion Market Steer at this year's fair. This is the highest placing you can receive at the fair, and she's been working with her animal for over 11 months to get to this point. Once again, congratulations to our CHS FFA. We would also like to congratulate Amanda Wolford, who placed third in the state for international business at the Future Business Leaders of America State Leadership Conference. She is a senior and is also the Cadet Corps Commander of CHS ROTC. Our APAC Company Theater and ITS Club hosted our high school pageant Mixed CHS. 13 amazing juniors and seniors competed for the crown. They all represented CHS with class, humor, and so much talent. It was such a great production, and it's something that we look forward to hosting every year. Last Friday was our Chandler High School's IB program's 40th anniversary celebration. We kicked off last week with an IB Spirit Week, and students who participated were put into a raffle for a bunch of amazing prizes. This is a milestone that we are proud to celebrate, and with that, we want to give a huge thank you to District Food Services, who made us 15 delicious cakes to pass out to students during lunch. It truly was a great day, and we look forward to the many more milestones we will reach with our IB program. Although there's so much going on right now, there are still a few things in the works. Our seniors are currently working on our Senior Sunset, which is at the end of the year, which is an end of the year event for our seniors to celebrate the school year. We also are in the process of electing our underclassmen for next school year, and I hope that you look forward to meeting next year's council with our 2023-2024 Student Body President, Lexi Moreno. Teacher Appreciation Week is coming up, and Student Council plans to treat our teachers with free coffee from Native Coffee Truck. We appreciate our teachers so much, and we are so excited to give back to them. And lastly, graduation. Our graduation is on May 25th, and our senior class have been working on decorations since the beginning of the year. We are all excited to close out the year, and we have done all that we can to make it as memorable as possible. I would like to thank you all for the opportunity this year to come to the board meetings and give updates on behalf of Chandler High School. It has truly been the greatest honor to represent CHS as their student body president, and I'm so thankful for the experience it has given me, such as getting to present to the CUSD board. It has been an absolute pleasure to present to the board this year, and on behalf of CHS, we thank you all for everything you have done for the students, staff, and families in CUSD. Once again, thank you and have a great evening.
So Camille, what are you going to do when you graduate?
What was that?
What are you going to do when you graduate?
So I'm attending ASU for creative writing.
All right. Well, we have a gift for you. You should be able to find a place for that.
Thank you. Awesome.
Thank you, Camille.
Thank you so much. Oh, yeah. Thank you so much.
All right. Next, we have our superintendent current events, Mr. Narducci.
Just a moment. Ollie, could you come up here for my computer, please, if I'm having some problems? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Olive. Just a few things to share, and members of the governing board. The Chinese Language Teacher Association has named Tarwater Elementary School as a National Distinguished K-12 Chinese program. Tarwater is one of only 20 programs in the country to earn this designation. Tarwater has offered a dual language immersion program in Mandarin since 2014. The program feeds into Mandarin programs at Bogle Junior High School and Hamilton High School. Tarwater students experience a 50-50 dual language immersion model in grades K through 6, in which students spend half their day with Mandarin classroom instruction and the other half of the day with English instruction to help students become competitive global citizens. If the public is looking for enrollment information into this program, they can go to cosd80.com/Mandarin. The COSD Annual Arts Showcase is on display at the Chandler Center for the Arts Gallery through May 11th. It is open to the public from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. and it's absolutely free. Monday through Friday and from noon to 5 p.m. on Saturdays. I think you'll be impressed by the student artwork on display, which includes sculptures, ceramics, paintings, drawings, jewelry, and photography. There's truly something for everyone. And as a matter of fact, tomorrow night, we're going to be providing awards at the Center for the Arts, and there's also a time to view the student work there as well. Basha High School's cybersecurity students finished second in a team event at the Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University's Cyber Aero Capture the Flag competition. I know a lot of us played Capture the Flag in elementary school. It's protecting aircraft against cyber attacks, and this is serious business, and these students are stepping up to the task. Essentially, how this competition works is that competing teams use the capture the flag-like scenarios to find the flaws an aircraft security network has and try to exploit them. So I guess that's key in cybersecurity. So congratulations to them. Also, congratulations to Chandler Roberts, a gifted social studies teacher for 7th and 8th graders in the STEAM Academy at Willis Junior High School. She is one of just 2 Arizona educators named as a Patricia Bering Teacher of the Year nominee for the nonprofit National History Day. The award, also known as the National History Day Teacher of the Year Award, recognizes teachers who demonstrate a commitment to engaging students in historical learning through the innovative use of primary sources, implementation of active learning strategies to foster historical thinking skills, and participation in the National History Day contest. I want to take this opportunity also to thank our good friends in the Sun Lakes Rotary Club. They've done so much for our schools, including recognizing Teachers of the Month, sponsoring the dictionary project for our elementary schools, and more. Most recently, they sponsored the 9th annual 4-way test speech contest for our students. The 4-way test relates to the guiding principles of Rotary, which are, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And will it be beneficial to all concerned? Sophia Berg of Arizona College Prep won first place and a $500 award. Joseph Chen of Hamilton High School was second and earned $200. And 3 runners-up also were rewarded with $100 runner-up awards. We also just learned that the Chandler Horizon Rotary chose 3 students today for $1,000 scholarships through the Basha Gives Back campaign for graduating seniors. And we certainly value the strong relationships we enjoy with all of our Rotary clubs here in Chandler. This week is After School Professionals Appreciation Week. And thanks to everyone in our community education team for the important role they play in the development of care of our children beyond the school day. We produced a video that we included in our weekly district newsletter that we produce, and we would like to share it now.
On this episode of the Superintendent's Focus, we take you to an amazing department called Community Education. Community Education offers before and after care, enrichment, clubs, sports, facility rentals, and so much more. You name a program, and Community Education might just offer it. Let's learn a little bit more.
Hi, my name is Michelle Castle, and I'm a Kids Express Activity Coordinator with Chandler Unified School District.
Tell our audience a little bit about what Community Education is?
Community education is the department within CUSD that provides all the extracurricular activities and programs for the school. So we do facility rentals, we do all of our enrichment programs, we have clubs at almost every campus. We have a hand in preschool, we have Little Explorers, which is our daycare preschool at the high schools, and then Kids Express.
So can you tell us a little bit about the activities that would be offered?
So Kids Express in particular, we have the before and after school programs. They have a snack, they have homework time. They're broken up into their different groups by their age, and then they go through curriculum, they go through a rotation. They might go to the computer lab, they do a STEM project or a cooking project. They go outside when the weather's nice and play active floor games, and we just try to keep them busy from after school until their parents can pick them up.
Tell us how many sites we have Kids Express programs at.
We're on 26 campuses in the elementary schools. We cover ages kindergarten through 6th grade. Our hours, we go 6:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. And we do offer busing from 4 of our elementary schools to Kids Express sites.
Why do you choose Kids Express?
When my first child went to elementary school and I was looking for before and after school, I loved the convenience of it being on campus. I wanted my kids to be able to stay with their peers, and I didn't want them busing anywhere else. I wanted them to stay on campus where they were comfortable.
I would like to introduce you to our new Community Education Director, all the way from Minnesota.
Thank you, Mr. Narducci. I'm Scott Vandermillen, Director of Community Education. Our programs strive to provide a wide variety of opportunities and services that go beyond the regular school day. Community education enriches our students, their families, and our wonderful community. Our offerings are open to all students, regardless of residence. Our staff excels at inspiring learning, creativity, and personal growth.
I'm with Carla from our Tarwater Kids Express program. Carla, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
I came to Kids Express in 2013, took a little break for my toddler at the time, and then I'm back again, and I am a site lead here at Tarwater Elementary.
I hear that the intercession break programs fill up very fast. What's the excitement about?
The fun activities that we have going on that keeps the children and students busy, going on field trips, it's phenomenal. My child comes home every single day from the camps, excited, ready to go back for more.
We can do this craft anywhere, and you chose Kids Express and continue to do that. I want to thank you for the passion you provide our students, for the love you provide our kids, but also for choosing to make a difference in kids' lives by being in child care. It does make a difference.
Yes, it does.
To learn more about community education or to select one of their quality programs, go to CUSD80.com, go to Departments, Community Education, and select the program you're interested in.
And finally, today is Administrative Professionals Day. We're grateful for all of our administrative assistants, including our very own Donna and I. Donna does so much every day to keep the governing board, and especially me, on task and on track and getting where I need to go. It's an important job, especially for me, and this is the perfect occasion to thank Donna publicly. Thank you, Donna, for all the work you put into the district, and for 18 years, you've done an exceptional job. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Elf.
All right, thank you, Frank, and thank you, Donna. Our next order of business is our citizens' comments. Ms. Ingersoll, could you lead us off?
The first citizen comment is from Jennifer Albee. Subject is transparency.
Before she goes up, I need sorry, I can't talk tonight. Need to read the thing that we have to do before. This is the time for public to comment. Members of the board may not discuss items that are not specifically identified on the agenda. Therefore, pursuant to ARS 38-431 0.01H, at the conclusion of the open call to public, individual members of the public body may respond to criticism made by those who have addressed the public body, may ask the staff to review a matter, or may ask that the matter be put on a future agenda. However, members of the public body shall not discuss or take legal action on matters raised during an open call to public unless the matters are properly noticed for discussion and legal action. Okay, thank you. Ms. Albee.
Just to clarify, is it 3 minutes or are we going with shorter time?
I didn't say 3 minutes.
Okay, perfect. All right. As you know, I am the parent of 5 former and current CUSD students. CUSD states one of its values is seeking first to understand and then to be understood. Tonight, I'd like to help CUSD understand a little more about myself in the hope that both CUSD and we parents have improved understanding with each other. Because from many of we parents' perspective, accountability and transparency with the district is a must. And there are too many recent circumstances, including my own personal experiences, causing we parents some concerns. I've had the opportunity to work 2 different public sector jobs. One was my first job out of college in 1995. I was an intern in the mailroom and then answered phones for a year on Capitol Hill for a senator from Nevada. I can tell you easily my initial salary was $13,500 because it was published every single year in the Congressional Record. My next job was as an admin PR assistant for a solar development nonprofit. We were funded by a grant from the Department of Energy, and our job was to promote solar usage in southern Nevada, particularly out at the Nevada test site as it transitioned from nuclear. In both jobs, it was understood that someone couldn't just walk in off of the street and demand to open our files. But because we were taxpayer funded, on reasonable notification, virtually everything related to our workplace was required to be made available to the public for scrutiny. Also, whatever we did within our job responsibilities, we were accountable for if the public wished to see. Likewise, from the perspective of we taxpayers here in the district, in CUSD, and especially as the parents of the children and the teens that we entrust to this district 5 days a week, there is almost nothing purchased or produced by this district which should not be open and available for public review on request. The obvious exception would be confidential employee records and students' private records. So now that I've shared where I and many other of the parents in your district are coming from, we'd like to better understand where CUSD is coming from as well. If there are things in CUSD's purview that the district believes that we parents or the public don't have the legal right to access, other than the already mentioned exceptions of confidential records, then I would appreciate getting a written response from CUSD
30 seconds.
detailing the specifics of which items are protected from public transparency and on what policy or legal grounds CUSD justifies those items being withheld. As I've said before, we parents never asked for nor wanted our schools to become ideological battlefields. Please understand, though, that we will never, ever leave our children alone on this battlefield alone. We will much rather understand and try to...
Time has expired.
All right, thank you.
Next speaker is Samantha Ruiz. Subject is transparency.
Good evening, Mr. President, Mr. Nucci, and members of the board. I have 2 children in the CUSD Elementary School, and I'm here to talk about transparency. I request transparency and honesty when it comes to teacher training, speakers, and topics. I'm grateful that Dr. Howard had canceled at the last minute with his appointment with us at the end of the spring break, because he expresses critical race theory content online. The first day back from spring break, my son came home from school and was telling me all about the teacher training that his teacher provided with. As a teacher should, she should find the trainings provided by CUSD useful and implement them into her teachings. This is why it is imperative that these trainings must directly affect the academic standards that our teachers are utilizing to educate our children. I'm asking that you provide us with the scheduled speakers in the future for CUSD staff trainings. We are provided with guest speaker information that occurs at school, whether it be an author reading, an in-house field trip, company speaker, and when we have informational parent night speakers provided ahead of time. So providing us with the speaker information for CUSD staff trainings and meetings in service days when the information is shared from these events with our children via their teachers, who will have a better understanding about what is being talked about, and we can better help our children understand and work with the teacher more cooperatively. Thank you.
The next speaker is Brett Wingate. Subject is agenda and in-service transparency.
Good evening. My name is Brett Wingate. I am a former parent of two Chandler Unified School District kids, and I am a current taxpayer in the Chandler Unified School District. I observed 2 weeks ago your discussion regarding the transparency for both the agenda items and the teacher trainings. And it dawned on me that there's some real simple solutions to this. And that is that you have to, somebody has to sign off on this. And somewhere, somebody has got to have a copy of it. It's just a matter of where do you keep that copy and how do you manage it. And whether it's in your consent agenda, whether it's in some place that you automatically are displaying it for the parents to see, it is just one more step in assuring that you are open and transparent to the parents that are lending you their kids. And there's an analogy I will give you. I was a parent 30 years ago, and we came to the Chandler School Board, and we asked, can we get some diversity in curriculum? We would like, the charter school movement had started, and we would like to have some sampling of that. So that the district went ahead and said, oh, well, we'll look at it. And you did. You did a survey. And the survey came back, 13% of the parents were interested in this curriculum, at least an expansion of the curriculum. And the response from administration and from the school board was, well, only 13% of the parents want to have this change in curriculum. It's not worth it. So at that, it was left. And the only choice for those of us that were searching for curriculum was to leave the district. So 30 years ago, I left the district with my two children. I'm happy I did. We chose a different school, had a great experience. But I would have liked to have that opportunity here in Chandler.
30 seconds.
And it seems to me that it's up to you to decide. Do you want to be customer friendly and invite parents to bring their children here? Or would you rather say, we don't need that? Thank you.
The next speaker is Eloise Gillespie, on professional development.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, and guests. Educators have a duty and a responsibility to provide a world-class education to students. And in order to do this, we need professional development that is relevant, dynamic, connected, and continuous. So before I go on, let me tell you who I am. I am Eloise Gillespie, and I currently teach in a public school here in Arizona. And as well, I live in Chandler, and I have two students who attend Chandler schools. My reason for being here tonight is indeed professional development. And it was great to hear that Chandler provides in the neighborhood of 350,000 clock hours of professional development to the teachers. But my concern lies in what's being delivered under the umbrella of professional development. You see, in actuality, the professional development term has become one of those innocuous things. It's harmless. It's a very comfortable term for educators. And it sounds really good when we're talking in our professional circles. But I think, and without going into too much detail, that we've blurred the lines between three separate areas, and that is teacher training, professional learning of teachers, and issues in education. Teacher training is when our teachers are getting training in instructional areas, math or reading. When you talk about professional development, you're talking about classroom management and understanding child pedagogy. And then when you talk about issues in education, those are the things that impact our schools in our larger society. And all of these things are very different. So I'll close by saying that I believe the district does an excellent job with teacher training. My kids love going to the schools they go to. And professional learning is really something that we need to focus on. However, I believe that the governing board is responsible for and should therefore be approving any professional development that falls in the example categories of race, gender, class, CRT, religion, and the like. And again, those are just example categories. And that will
30
help
seconds.
us remain aligned with the district mission and vision and goals and objectives. Thank you. Have a good evening.
The next speakers are Hannah and Amelia to speak about a holiday.
Good evening. My name is Hannah Haig, and I am Amelie Alam, and we are 5th grade Muslim students who attend CT Independence, and we are here today on behalf of all the Muslim students who do not attend school on this special day of the year, for they are celebrating Eid.
Eid is by far the most important holiday in Islam. Eid is a celebration after a holy month of fasting, or Ramadan.
Bill de Blasio, mayor of New York City, announced in 2015 that Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha official holidays for all schools in New York. Bill de Blasio said that there is a clear connection between Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. The first two we appropriately honor crucial holidays, and in a matter of fairness and consistency, we should honor the two Eid holidays.
But sometimes the district or the school makes important tests or fun events that happen to be on our holiday. Students could not be able to experience it or were forced to stay at school. For example, last Friday was the Grand Canyon field trip for our 4th graders, and it also happened to be Eid on the same day. Many had to miss a day full of fun and cherished lifetime experiences just for Eid. At ACP Middle School field, they happened to be on Eid also missing fun experiences.
And for high school students, such as my brother, it goes on their permanent record that they were not in attendance of school.
A few other states and school districts who honor our holiday is Virginia and New York. They have already adopted Eid as an official school holiday.
So we ask you to do the same. Islam is also the second largest religion, and recent studies show that in the 21st century, Islam is the fastest growing religion in the world. About 1/3 of the population of the world are Muslims, so the district should accommodate or even acknowledge Muslim holidays into the school calendar.
The district should acknowledge the fact that Muslims have religious holidays and that they should be able to celebrate without penalty.
I would like to thank my sister, Malak Hag, for all her support and encouragement for us to do this.
And we would like to thank our principal and our vice principal, Ms. Sacco and Ms. Walter, for everything they did to get us on here. And
thank you for your time.
Thank you, girls. Okay. Next we have our consent agenda. Mr. Narducci, would you like to present the consent agenda?
President, all the members of the governing board, I request approval of the consent agenda as presented and as published.
Thank you. Could I get a motion?
Mr. President, I move to approve the consent agenda as presented and published.
Thank you. Could I get a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor of the consent agenda as presented, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Joel says aye. All right. Thank you. Next, we move on to our action items. Next, Mr. Dunn, Galveston Elementary School, GMP update.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board. As you're aware, the district intends to rebuild Galveston Elementary School on the existing campus just to the east of the current campus. The replacement school will be approximately 72,000 square feet with a capacity for 750 students. Request for qualifications, RFQ was issued, and McCarthy Building Companies was selected as the general contractor of record. Given the current market conditions, in order to procure long lead items, our guaranteed maximum price number 1 has been negotiated in order to procure HVAC mechanical equipment, electrical gear, and panels in the amount of $1,551,811, which the district believes to be fair and reasonable. Recommend approval of GMP number 1 with McCarthy Building Companies in the amount of $1,551,811 for Galveston Elementary early procurement items.
Thank you. Could I get a motion?
I'll move to approve GMP number 1 with McCarthy Building Companies in the amount of $1,551,000.
Okay, could I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Now we can
Make
have
it-
discussion.
Could we perhaps have the motion amended for the proper amount, $1,551,811?
Yes, of course. I'm sorry I missed that.
All right, thank you.
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Dunn?
I have one.
Go ahead.
How long are they expecting the electrical panels, the electrical equipment, and the HVAC equipment to take to get in?
Anywhere from 45 to 65 weeks.
Whoa. Okay. And is this common right now? Or, I mean, it didn't used to take this long, did it?
It's
Yeah.
very common right now. Yeah.
I have one I've been waiting on for 14 months.
Wow. And are these like really specialty stuff, or is it just, commercial large side?
run-of-the-mill package units for our air conditioning and typical electrical gear that you would need for a main service on a campus this size.
Yeah, those electrical gears aren't like, they aren't off the shelf. You have to order them. They're all
Custom
order,
basically?
yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Joel, you okay? You have any questions? Joel's good. Patty or Kurt, do you guys have any questions? Okay, thank you. In that case, we'll go ahead and vote on this action item. All those in favor of approving GMP1 for McCarthy Building Companies for $1,551,811, please say aye.
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 Aye. The motion carries. I don't know if we still have Joel or not. He may have taken a break.
Yes.
Oh, Joel says yes. Thank you, Joel.
Jason, can I move on the next item? I don't know if anybody will hear it. Make a motion.
Yeah, you can make a motion.
Yeah, I'd like to approve the comprehensive financial report and single audit reporting package for the year ended June 30th, 2022.
Okay. Could I get a second, then we'll have Lana go over it?
I'll second.
All right. Thank you. I think we can discuss it now. We're going to have Lana present it, Joel.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President, members of the governing board. Tonight, the annual comprehensive financial report and single audit report package for the year ending June 30th, 2022 is presented for approval. Also presented are the Uniform System of Financial Records Compliance Questionnaire and the Questionnaire Finding Response. There's also a PowerPoint presentation that Jennifer Schilds, who is a partner of Heinfeld and Meach, is going to present in just a minute. Now, once she's finished presenting, I'm actually going to go over our 7 findings that we had. We had actually a great year. In my 10 years here, this is our best kind of audit in a sense of the number of findings. We only had 7. But there's a lot of work that goes into that. So before I turn it over to Jennifer to actually go through the audit with you, I just wanted to actually thank a number of people. As you know, we spend almost $600 million in our school district. We have 5,000 employees. The number of transactions, interactions between staff, and hands-on of different financial procedures in our district is pretty massive when you think about it. We're bigger than most cities in the United States. So I'm very impressed, and I just wanted to say a few thank yous before I get started. So first off, Heather Caviar and Lauren Randall are two directors of business services, and they are incredible in doing our budget, handling our reconciliations, all of our financial ins and outs, cash handlings. They also help everyone who interacts with us. And so I also want to thank John Whitenick because he does our ADM, but Dr. Gilbert also is responsible to make sure our kids and the number of students who come to our schools drive the financial system. And so Dr. Gilbert helps us to make sure we're ensuring that all of our schools have the accurate number of hours. And then John Whitenick does a phenomenal job working with all of our registers, every single one at all of our 40 schools that report our data in and then report it accurately to the state. We also have a huge team in our grants management. Sarah and her team handle that. We also have Dr. Marshall, and we have Lindsay Duran who do CTE. We get a number of federal, state grants in. They handle all of that. We get audited on that, and their teams work through that, not only in procuring things, but hiring individuals, reporting time and effort. All of those documents are reviewed and looked at. So again, great job on their team. Our transportation team does our routes miles because we get funded on number of miles that we transport our students. So our team has to review that. Again, Heather and Lauren help to confirm those numbers and that reporting, but again, extremely important. We also have Dr. Nance and her entire team who work through payroll and HR. There's a number of not only tax forms, but time and effort and individuals who get hired, the hiring process to make sure it comes here to the governing board to get approved in time and then processed through. Our salary schedules, contracts, all of those things are pretty critical. 941s, unemployment, tax returns, all kinds of things, and they do a fantastic job in that. Procurement department has another huge area that gets audited. Between that and attendance are two of the biggest areas that get audited. And so great job on our procurement. But it's not just our procurement team of 5 that work here in the district office. It's all of our principals, all of their admin assistants, all of our directors that have to actually buy the things for their departments, confirm that they get quotes, confirm that they're accounting and they're putting the codes correctly. And they do a great job learning every year, reviewing stuff, going over it. Even sometimes, if it's wrong, we have to get back and it takes a longer period of time. They give us grace and they really work through that. So I know I'm missing a ton of people, but Donna and I helps with governances. You're going to see on the piece with Mr. Narducci to guard it all as we come through and make sure that we get it on the governing board. So a lot of approvals through that. And then our schools and our bookstores who handle all of our cash funding from our gate sales to the students who raise dollars and have to report for it. So just wanted to say it's a massive system. I'm missing a lot of people, but they do an excellent job on the financial side reporting everything. We try to be as transparent as possible to show that not only to our community and our stakeholders, but to make sure that every penny we spend really impacts our students here at Chandler Unified School District. So I know that was a long-winded response before we get started on the annual financial report, but we are very fortunate for our staff members who really take pride in reporting our dollars correctly and making sure that we spend our money. And that's from all of our administration down to each of our school members. So we're really excited always about what we do and what we do here at Chandler Unified. And we hope we spend every dollar to impact students. So I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer Shields. She's amazing. Her and her team audit us every year, annually, and we are very thankful. We really find that audits are helpful to our school district. Not only do we need to do an audit to comply with the law, but also we really have the ability to ask questions. We go to trainings that they put on, but we also are able to improve processes that we see from these audits annually that, again, ensure taxpayers' dollars, but just really make sure that we're spending dollars to impact students correctly. So very thankful for Jennifer and her team. And I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer.
Well, thank you, Ms. Ferry, Lana. I call her Lana because we work together. Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, Mr. Narducci, guests, everybody in attendance, cabinet members, et cetera. That was I couldn't say anything better than what was already said in terms of the amount of people that actually help us prepare information in order to complete the audit. Many of the individuals that Ms. Berry mentioned, we do talk with on a very frequent basis. So those of you named, you know us well. But in terms of communication to governance, that's what we're here for tonight. Just to reiterate, although we work with a number of district officials, we are at Heinfeld and Meach the external auditors for the district. So the contract that gets awarded and how our services are ultimately provided come through the competitive procurement process, just like all other procurements that are done at the district. And for fiscal year 22, that was the second year of a, I believe, 5-year contract. So that's where we are in the contract of it. In terms of the audit timeline, it's a very lengthy process. You'll see by the timeline on the screen there. We started the 22 fiscal year audit back last April. Here it is, April of 23, and we're doing the presentation to the board. You'll notice by the timeline, you can see various kind of milestones listed on the screen. All of those timelines are very consistent with the last, prior audits that have been done. Ultimately, the audit reports are issued in December to meet several deadlines that are required. And I'm happy to report that all of the required deadlines that the district has to meet with respect to financial and compliance reporting were in fact met. So there are 4 different documents that are provided to the board, and I believe you all have those in your board docs information, but there's a communication to governance, which is a letter, and it includes some information, much of which I am going over tonight orally. There is what's called the Annual Comprehensive Financial Report. That is the financial statements of the district. There's also a single audit reporting package, which outlines various compliance requirements related to the audit of the federal programs here at the district. And then last but not least, there is what's called the Uniform System of Financial Records Compliance Questionnaire. And that is a document that's put out by the State of Arizona Office of the Auditor General. And I'll talk a little bit later on about each one of those things. But in terms of the scope of the audit services, we are hired by the district to perform an audit in accordance with U.S. generally accepted auditing standards, also in accordance with government auditing standards, and then also with uniform guidance. So each one of those governing bodies dictates the work that is performed by our firm. And we're also hired to complete that USFR compliance questionnaire that I mentioned earlier. In terms of responsibilities of the auditor and management, there are a number of things that are outlined in the engagement letter, which you've been provided a copy of in that letter to governance. But I'll just point out that, there are fraud communications that occur. We do interviews with a number of different employees and staff here at the district. We also interview a board member every year, kind of talk about what's going on, what programs are in place to prevent and detect and defer fraud. And just a reminder that, of course, ultimately the responsibility to prevent fraud and put internal controls in place does rest with the board and management. On the other hand, what our responsibilities are to design an audit that would provide reasonable assurance to management and users of the financial statements that the financial statements are fairly presented. In the annual comprehensive financial report this year, there was a new accounting standard that was required to be implemented. We lovingly refer to it as GASB number 87. And what that is that's an accounting pronouncement that essentially it requires all governments to report leased assets and both lease as a lessor and a lessee. You would have to report your assets and your liabilities on your financial statements. So that was a change for the district. Lease payables were always included in the past, but something new with this statement was bringing on a lot of lease receivables. So that took a mountain of work from various individuals here at the district to gather all of that information, because much of that information for any receivables was many years old. So getting all of that documentation together was a big undertaking. There are significant estimates in the financial statements. Every set of financial statements that are issued contain estimates because, management can't know 100% of everything within the timelines of when reports are issued. And also because there are certain decisions that you make, say, for example, with the useful lives of depreciable assets, management says, hey, we think that we're going to use a bus for X number of years, and in reality, you may use that bus for more or less number of years, depending upon a number of different factors. So it's a common thing to have estimates in your financial statements. So useful lives of depreciable assets, that's a very large one here at the district. Also, what's called incurred but not reported claims for employee health and wellness. So we estimate what those claims may be because we don't always know as, our employees are working through the system, or perhaps they have a claim that occurred that didn't, but they haven't gone to the doctor yet, that type of thing. And then, of course, the probably largest one is related to the state pension plan, which all district employees that meet those requirements are participating in Arizona State Retirement. And there are a number of assumptions that are made by the state retirement system in terms of projections and things like that, so that those all roll into a liability that is reported in the district's financial statements. In terms of audit adjustments, we're required to disclose whether or not there were any significant audit adjustments that should be that we should inform the board of, and there were none of those, so I'm happy to report that. Also in terms of in the audit contract also has some items that are for non-audit services, and those are things that we assist the district with, namely the preparation of the financial statements themselves. So that very large annual comprehensive financial report, it's like 150, 70 pages, something like that. We assist with the preparation of that. What we do is we start from the district's accounting records, and then we take the data in the district's accounting records and we sort of reorganize it into the format that's required for external financial reporting, including the putting together all the footnotes and things that explain the financial statements themselves. We also assist with the preparation of what's called the CFA, which is the Schedule of Expenditures of Federal Awards, which is part of that single audit uniform guidance report, and also the related data collection form, which is required by the federal government. Other required communications, we had no disagreements with management over financial accounting or reporting matters or audit matters. Management did provide for us the required representations at the conclusion of the audit, basically stating that the things that we asked for, they provided. And then also Heinfeld Meach, as your external auditors, we are required to maintain our independence and follow our own professional set of ethical requirements. And we continually assess that, and we had no violations with respect to our independence or our ethical concerns, or ethical requirements, rather. So shifting gears into the actual reports, I'm not going to go through all the pages, but in case you wanted to look at perhaps maybe some highlights, page 22, I'll point out these are PDF pages in the actual PDF documents. Page 22 is the independent auditor's report, and I'm happy to report that the district received an unmodified opinion. So that's the good opinion that you want to get. And then I'll state in that management's discussion and analysis, as well as in the statistical schedules, management's discussion and analysis will provide a lot of good language as to why things changed sort of year over year. If there's a big blip in, like an expenditure line item, or why did, assets increase, those types of things. Management puts those into not just tabular numerical format, but also into paragraph, like reading type language format. And then the statistical section will show you a lot of data for many times a 10-year history of, how the district's finances have appeared for the last 10 years. So those are of particular use to a lot of individuals. Shifting gears to the single audit reporting package on page 11, again, of the PDF, it's the last page. What you'll find is the schedule of findings and question costs. And in that, it sort of summarizes, it's like a recap page of the entire single audit piece of it. So there were no significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in internal controls that were required to be reported. And then with the single audit, you'll notice I have 5 major federal programs that are listed there. Keep in mind that the single audit itself has increased dramatically across the nation due to the pandemic, and there have been a lot of federal bills that have provided a lot of additional funding to governments across, and even non-governments across the country. So this year we looked at 5 federal programs, which is close to a record. we had to audit what's called the coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds. You guys call that something more like Ed Plus Up, 100-day grant, AZ on track, so those grants that are awarded through the governor's office. So we audited those particular programs. We audited what you refer to as ESSER under the Education Stabilization Fund. We audited your Title I program, your special education program, and then something new that came about last year was what was called the Emergency Connectivity Fund. And that comes from USAC, which is the organization that provides your E-rate type funding. So I believe the district used a lot of the Emergency Connectivity Fund dollars to, purchase technology for students, things like Chromebooks or, some type of technology of that nature. So I did a quick search. So the district spent over $67 million of federal money last year. So when we talk about grants and the importance of that department, it's very, very large. So over $67 million for information purposes. The floor at which an agency would be required to have a single audit is at $750,000. That's where you start, needing a single audit. And I also looked back to see where the district was pre-pandemic. So if you go back, take yourselves back to like fiscal year 2019, before there was such a thing that we knew of as COVID-19. The district's federal expenditures at that time were approximately $21 million. So you can see, to jump from $21 million just a few years ago to over $60 million now it's a huge effort. So there's a lot of rules and requirements with respect to that. And so then to have no findings is, kind of what Ms. Berry was talking about earlier, that, it's what we call maybe a good audit or a decent audit, right? Lastly, we talked about the Uniform System of Financial Records being the document that is put out by the state of Arizona and the Office of the Auditor General. It covers a whole multitude of different areas that were mentioned. I've just listed a few. I think there's a total of 18 different areas, and there's over 400 or so questions that we have to answer. So we have to design audit tests to be able to answer yes or no to all of those questions. And there were, a few minor instances of non-compliance. Most of them were in the area of student attendance, and then there's just a smattering of other things. Maybe one of the transactions was miscoded or something like that. But nothing of significance that would have risen to a level of a material weakness or a significant deficiency, as I just reported. So with that, I'm happy to stand for any questions and turn it back over to Ms. Berry.
Mr. President, if you have any questions for Jennifer specifically, if not, I will go over the compliance questionnaire findings and what our responses to those are.
I don't have any. Everyone else, do you guys have any questions?
I do, and a couple comments, if I could.
All right, go ahead, Joel.
You may have to repeat it, but and I've complained about this in the past, so I'm not going to beat it up. But 158 pages is of no value to people in trying to figure out our financials. What is important is the USFR compliance. That's the one that really looks at our accounting procedures and makes sure they're good and solid. And that's the one report, if anybody ever reads it, that's the one they should read. So otherwise, the report looks great.
Okay, thank you, Joel. Everybody was able to hear you.
Okay.
All right. Yes, sir, Mr. Roars.
Yeah, in a previous meeting, Mr. Worth alluded to about $100 million in contingency reserve funding. I was wondering where that line item is, because I can't seem to find that. Where are those funds? So where is the line item that talks about the $100 million contingency reserve funding?
Oh, the contingency reserve funding. He was looking for where that is.
Okay, so that's a great question, Mr. Moores, and I'll actually allow Jennifer to respond too on that. We have to record things in a different fashion. There's major funds, there's different funding sources that record every single one of those. We have, I think, over 65 funds in our school district, and they get recorded separately in different columns based on the size, the 10% rule, I believe it is, and Jennifer can go over that. But there's different places in the financials that you'll see, so you have to actually go back if you want to look at a particular fund to see which column that is in. And I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer, if that's okay, Jennifer, to explain kind of how we report those throughout our financials, if that's okay.
Okay, sure. And to Mr. Worth's point, if you guys were talking about a $100 million contingency, that could be something where you have a combination of.
Can you do or clarify, please?
Say that again, Joel.
Yeah, if you could just be a little closer to the microphone so I can understand what she's saying.
If you get closer to the mic. Yeah.
Am I close enough? Okay. Yes. So in terms of the $100 million contingency, I'm not privy to perhaps what Mr. Worth was referring to. But when you look at the financials, there are a number of different places. So you have budgeted funds. There are things that are called budget balance carry forwards, which that's a budgetary item. In terms of the external financial statements in this particular, what we call the ACFR, you can look at what's maybe what he's referring to is some unassigned fund balance, which it comes from a variety of different places. In the actual printed version, it's pages 36 and 37. And what the fund balance does is if it's unassigned, that means in theory it's available. However, it's available based on the constraints of state law or where those revenues were coming from. So it might not be a global $100 million that you could take and just allocate towards salaries or something like that. Some of it is geared for specific programs and things like that. So I'm not sure if that's what he was referring to or not.
So a couple things too. The annual financial report is different that we present in October in the way that it looks compared to the annual comprehensive annual financial report that Heinfeld and Meach puts together. Also, because of an accrual basis, there's different ways of reporting pieces too. But so our annual financial report, if you were to take every single one of our funds, it could be from our maintenance and operations to our capital to our Prop 301 that's for our teachers to our federal grants. All of those have a carryover balance. Some of those are cash funds, and that gets carried over. Some of them are budgetary funds. And so those are all different. And it looks different when Jennifer presents it in the annual financial report than it does on the one that you review in October. They're the same dollars, but how they get reported. And they get reported in different columns based on the criteria set out by federal statutes. So that there's no line that has that. You would have to add up a number of funds and understand if they're cash funds or if they're budgetary funds. We talk district-wide about a contingency of our cash funds, and that's a policy that we put together, or the process, the procedure that we put together, and you guys did a resolution on not spending more than of our unrestricted cash funds. That's different than a line item that combines all funds. The financials don't record it that way. We just talk about that because internally we know how much money we have in our carryover funds related to cash funds and to budgetary funds to spend for the future. So I apologize, there is no $100 million. We don't have a $100 million contingency line item, but we do have cash funds. We add up all those together, and that's the reserve that you guys made the resolution on, that we don't exceed more than 10%. And then there is a reserve on our maintenance and operations, capital budgets, our Prop 301. Our bond dollars have reserves in them. For example, we had a $290 million voter initiative. We've sold a certain portion of those bonds. We have cash that represents part of that. We have a budget that represents part of it because we haven't sold bonds. So very difficult to pin down a specific number. It depends on what you're looking for related to a specific fund in general usually.
Well, it kind of speaks to my point. It's almost impossible to figure out for a normal human being. Perhaps, and I can make the suggestion, that something can go in the management discussion that kind of simplifies that so the public can understand how much extra money we have. I mean, it's a very significant amount of money and it's a very significant concern. So if perhaps we can do that going forward so it's very easy to understand for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, would you guys, would it be okay if I go over the findings from the compliance? I think what Mr. Worth was saying on the phone a minute ago, I agree with him that when you read our comprehensive annual report, it is a big report. It's hard to understand, but I think what you do focus on is a uniform system of financial records compliance questionnaire. Like Jennifer talked about, there is 400 questions in that. Very heavily, there's a lot of questions in attendance and procurement. And usually, I've been in this 23 years, the largest number of findings almost everyone have typically are in attendance, because you have a lot of manual entry related to attendance. You have, for us, we have 45 plus registers who are recording entrances of students' withdrawals, entrances into the system, recording their absences every day. And so that's usually, and because that's what generates our funding source, obviously that's really critical to be accurate. But I'm going to review them. You find a document in there, there's a response to the questionnaire. We had 7 findings. Again, I'm extremely excited about those 7 findings. Like Mr. Shields talked about, there's 18 areas that we have to cover. And I didn't even mention the areas of technology and warehouse and fixed assets and all other things that we get audited on. But again, we're really excited about how well our team has done and really complying with the USFR. But first off, the very first one was governing board management procedures. And this doesn't have anything to do with what Mrs. Nye and Mr. Narducci does. It's ultimately, do we, on the financial side, there was a question saying, does the governing board approve student clubs, organizations, fundraising events? So when we have fundraisers, the types of events, the governing board actually has to approve a list of all of that. When they were reviewing this area, they tested 5 different areas on cash receipts, and they found that one of those cash receipts was a fundraiser, and so they asked for our governing board approved fundraiser list, and what we found was we didn't have that. So it was actually a great thing for us to learn, and you'll be seeing the fundraiser approvals. For 22-23, we began that, so it helped that we understood we didn't have it for 21-22. So that was something that was found through the audit and has been corrected in 22-23 and going forward. The next finding was accounting records. Did the district code transactions in accordance with the uniform system of financial records? As you know, we have thousands of purchase orders, and each of those have line items, hundreds of thousands of lines of codes. We have a very long code system between the fund. Like I said, we have over 60 plus accounts. It's kind of like a checking account. And within those, you need to know, is it special education, regular education? Is it instructional? Is it support service? Is it maintenance and grounds? What are those areas? How does it get coded to a school? How does it get coded to a program and their codes? They found on one of those that were tested that we coded a cleaning tool to an instructional tool instead of coding it to a function 2600, which is plant services. So our schools, we have to train our administration and their staff on how to code things. And if they accidentally code a cleaner at their school to an instructional code and not to a plant service, that can be a finding. So we had one of our codes was not done. So again, we have changed a little bit of our workflow process to make sure we have a few people at our district office who review codes, and we've really found that we can check and fix those if they come across, especially because you're always training new staff in that area. Credit cards and P cards. So we have credit cards and P cards, as you know, throughout our district. We have actually a really sophisticated P card system, one of the best ones. We always give out our P card manual to other districts, but we had a few handful of credit cards. We actually have now, because the question was the district paid credit cards and P card statements before the due date to avoid financial charges and late fees.
Lana, could you explain for everybody else what P card means?
Yes, it's like a credit card, but it has a limit. It's a procurement card. So it's a P card. It looks and acts just like a credit card, but it has a limit on it. So most of our schools have a limit of $250, so they can spend on that for certain criteria. So it's like a credit card. They're procurement cards. And we do that because it takes a long time to process, for example, a $50 purchase order. By the time it goes through a number of people, we find that it is better to use your P card. It saves on the other side. So there's some savings in that. We did have, though, the district incurred a total of $140 in financial charges and late fees in the month of March. So the only fees we had, and what happened was we submitted the payment for the credit card to a different Wells Fargo address. They sent it back, and by the time we sent the check back, we got a late fee. We got 3 late fees. 2 of them we got waived, but they did charge us for 1. And so we actually decided to get rid of all of our credit cards, and we just have P cards now. And P cards we pay and then reconcile back, but we shouldn't have a financial charge because we pay for them immediately. We have a system for that and won't get a financial charge on that. If you think about a $600 million budget, though, $140 finance fee is pretty minimal.
Clarify that. Does it kind of work actually as a debit card in a sense for, for people out here?
So no, it works like a credit card, and then we pay it when the bill comes in for the P card. They can only spend up to $250 unless we give them an increase on it, and then we pay the bill when it comes in directly. And then if they code something wrong, or if it's usually a coding issue, we can fix that within that time period. But credit cards, you have the ability, we have to get the statements in, reconcile it to all the receipts that come in. We have the ability with the P cards to get that in, reconcile all the pieces, and so we won't have the financial late charge on that.
Okay, thank you.
But we don't have debit cards in our district at all. No debit cards. PTOs who are nonprofits can have those, but our district does not have any. Yes.
Isn't the P card just another version of a credit card?
It is. Yes.
Okay. All right.
Student attendance reporting. This is where we have 4 findings in our district, and the first one states the question is, the district's calendar ensures schools was in session for the required days and offered students the required instructional hours per grade level, including the Arizona online instruction programs as prescribed by statute. And you can see the statutes on there. The finding was 7th through 8th grade students enrolled in the district's AOI program. Students were only required to be in session for 1,000 hours instead of required hours in statute for 1,068. So it's a little bit difficult with the online program that has came up. We have a couple different statutes. We have 15-901, but we also have 15-808. So the financial side require us to actually have 890 hours. So we met all the financial statutes, but 15-808 has 1,068 hours. And so honestly, this is still a lot of questions in this area. School finance produces documents that tells us how many hours to collect the funding, which we have all those hours to do. We have around 1,000 hours in our schools. You're only required to have 890 hours, but in the 15-908, the statute says you should have 1,068. So something we have to work on a little bit, not only here with Chandler, but also probably do we need to make a legislative change? How do we get those two to match up between what the full school finance side has and the statute has on instructional hours? Student attendance reporting. The next question is, did the district appropriately track and report student memberships and absences? We did have a finding. We had 1 of 15. They audited both the elementary and junior high students for partial days. Attendance and absences were reported incorrectly. And so it did not result in like an overstatement or understatement of funding, but ultimately we just had a clerical error at the middle school, at ACP Middle School. She just typed in a full day, and it should have been, or our day was a half day and it should have been a full day. So it's just an absence correction when she types that in, because again, our attendance clerks have to go in and manually input those. Additionally, 4 of 7 high school students reviewed for partial day attendance absences were reported incorrectly, resulting in an understatement of 1.25 absences. Now remember, absences is not how we're funded. We're funded on average daily membership, but we do have to report all our absences. We don't get funded on that, but we do have to report them correctly. What happens with that is if the student is not there for the 55 minutes of class, we're supposed to, let's say they only showed up for 15 minutes, you're supposed to report them as completely absent for the day. In our district, we've made the decision that if they're there for half of the period, we report them as present for that period. That's a decision we've made, and we get a finding every year for that. But for us, parents want to know if their students have been in attendance, usually for that period, and not a phone call every time if they've missed a couple minutes of that class. And so we figure if they've been there for at least half of the class, if you come back from a doctor's appointment, a dentist appointment, you had to step out for an appointment of some form. So that's how we have coded it, but we get a finding each year on that. 2 of 7 JTED students reviewed for the FTE reporting for subjects enrolled under the district's CTE number. FTE was reported incorrectly, resulting in an overstatement of 0.5 FTE. And that's related, again, to the attendance piece and how we record when they have that absence or not. There's the next one on the next page, student attendance reporting. So the third one under student attendance, the district maintained appropriate documentation and accurately reported student enrollments in the AOI program, including redetermining the actual full-time equivalent for each student enrolled in the AOI program following students' withdrawal or after the end of the school year. So there's two pieces that we had on findings. So they tested our AOA students, and what they found was we didn't have a form that that students filled out that stated that they were intended to be full-time equivalent enrolled students. We did the form during COVID, but after we came out of COVID, we didn't have the parents re-sign that form, so it's something that we found and we're still having to work on. But we did it during COVID, it came out during COVID, and we did not then have that form filled out by parents to sign that. And so it's just something that we'll have to work on. Potentially there could be a finding in this fiscal year because we did determine that during the audit this year.
So for the audience, can you explain what AOI means?
Arizona Online. So that's our online students who are virtual. The next one on that same finding was for the grades 7 through 8 students enrolled in the district's AOI program, the required hours did not meet the statutory requirements. The same finding as what we talked about earlier. The required for a full-time equivalency for funding is 890 hours, but the statute in 15-908 says 1,068. So again, did not impact our funding source, but ultimately didn't meet that statutory requirement piece. So still working through that piece, and we're going to have to continue to work on that, not only with our accounting firm, but just with the legislature and with the Arizona Department of Education. The last one is student attendance reporting. The question was, did the entry date in the computerized attendance system agree to the entry form and was entered into the attendance system within 5 working days after the actual date of the student's enrollment? And remember, I told you we have 45 amazing registrars who are working really hard every day. For example, at a school of almost 4,000 at Hamilton, down to our elementaries that have between, typically on average about 750 students in those elementary schools. And they are inputting absences and enrollments every day. On this finding, what they found, it was at Navarrete Elementary School, was that a parent came in, they signed in their student, said that the student would be coming on October 14th. The student couldn't come on October 14th, and so she began school on October 19th. So the form the parent filled out said October 14th. The student couldn't actually come and started school on October 19th. The attendance clerk corrected it in the computerized system, which is accurate, and that's what gets reported to the state, and that was correct. But she didn't go back and fill out the form that the parent filled out and make a change on the paper form. So when the paper form doesn't match the computer system, then you can get a finding for that. The computer system was accurate, but it just tells you all the manual steps that have to be taken, not only in the computer system, but also on the paperwork side. So that was the finding that was received. We actually got the correct funding for it, but we just didn't have the paperwork on the back side to say she didn't come for 5 additional days. And that was it. Those are the findings. So again, only 7 findings when you think about 400 questions and the number of transactions in the 18 areas. Still very happy with the results of our audit, and still feel like we can always get better. We've learned some things within it, and we'll continue to get better.
All right. Thank you, Mrs. Berry.
Welcome.
Does anyone have any questions about the stuff Ms. Berry is presenting? No? Joel, are you good?
I'm good.
Okay. In that case, we have a motion on the table. It was to, what was that motion? Approve the annual comprehensive report. So, all those in favor of approving the annual comprehensive financial report as presented, please say aye.
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 Joel says aye. All right, the motion carries. That brings us to our informational items. We have private day tuition expenditures. Dr. Marshall.
President Olive, members of the board, tonight attached is a list of private day school tuition expenditures for the third quarter of the 22-23 school year is for your review. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer any.
All right, thank you.
I have a quick one. Does it appear as though our number of students is stable and that for this and that we have enough allocated for the rest of the school year?
Yes, we do, and they have remained stable even during these times.
Perhaps you can explain to the audience why we send kids to private day school.
Oh, okay. Under the IDEA, Chandler Unified is responsible for providing the full continuum of services for students that have disabilities, identified educational disabilities that differ a lot from medical disabilities. So under the IDEA, you have to qualify and require services. Many of our children, we have over 5,000 students identified with disabilities in Chandler Unified. Some of those students, as you can, as on the report, we have about 125 of those students who have needs so significant that we've not been able to meet those needs, and we have to contract with private schools in order to get them the services that they require and to help us. They partner with us then in also transitioning students back. We have very strong relationships with the private schools within the East Valley in the area, but sometimes we may not have the staffing. The needs are great. They may need some specialized equipment or treatment facilities that offer a level of expertise that we don't have in the public schools. And so we contract with those private schools to get them the services that they are entitled to under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. Does that make sense?
I hope it does. But just so people understand, we have about 125 students.
Yes.
And our budget for this year is $5.3 million. So it's a very
Correct.
expensive thing to do.
Yes, it is.
But we have to service our kids.
Yes, we do. We're obligated to service the kids, and typical tuition averages between $40,000 and $50,000 per student, and that's just the tuition. That does not count related services provision or the transportation costs to have a student transported from their home to the private day facility. It's very expensive, but we have been able, I'm very proud to say that we have been able for the last 5 years to keep that number at $5.3 million as we have then expanded some of our other services that we can provide within our own school district and keep our kids here, because the goal is always to help our kids get the skills to then transition them back into their community here in Chandler Unified. And our private day partners do a really great job of working with us and partnering with us to make that happen.
Okay, so thank you. I just wanted people to understand there's another thing that the district does that they probably don't know about. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Does anyone else have questions about day school tuition? If not, we'll go on to Ms. Ingersoll. She may help us through revisions to the regulation KDB-R, Public Right to Know and Freedom of Information.
Mr. President, members of the governing board, you have before you revisions to Regulation KDB-R, Public Right to Know, Freedom of Information. Arizona School Boards Association, ASBA, has recommended changes to Regulation KDB-R, Public's Right to Know, Freedom of Information. HB 2578 requires any entity subject to a public records request to provide the name, telephone, and email address of an employee or department that is authorized and able to assist with the requesting party. This point of contact must be listed on the school or district's website. The law also requires a district or school that receives a request to acknowledge receipt of the request within 5 business days unless an online portal is utilized, in which the acknowledgement should be automatic upon submission. Chandler Unified School District recommends accepting the revisions as proposed to ASBA. These changes are presented as information, as changes to regulations do not require board approval.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Ingersoll. Does anyone have any questions about this?
Yeah, I was a little confused. And HB 2578 is a bill.
That's a bill, so that's a state bill.
No, I understand that. Yeah. My point is, we're supposed to follow statutes. So it might be better. Now, I don't know if this was approved and signed by the governor, and if it's actually in statute now, it probably would be better to reference the statute.
Yeah. I don't know. The Arizona School Boards Association, I guess they've attached that House Bill number to it. I don't know if it's a statute. I mean, it would have to be a statute for them to do a interpretation of it.
Jason?
Yes, sir.
What they're really doing there is it's just trying to explain what the law says, in my opinion.
Yeah, the ASBA is giving us an interpretation and direction on how to properly follow the law.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, my point is the statute is law. House bills are just proposals for
Just
vote.
bills.
Yeah,
That's
so
a good point.
If I may add,
Yeah.
I don't think that's a bad idea. One of the things that we usually, in bringing the bill, is so that in connection to that statute, how it came to be, and all the background that goes with it. So if we just did the statute, you wouldn't be able to follow the whole tracking of how that became part of the statute. So I think it's not a bad idea for us to add the statute. I would say keep the bill so you know all the background, and maybe to add the statute to it. The other thing, though, we have to be careful on is sometimes we try to make sure that we start the process of getting it to you, and it may not be completely implemented because of the year that's coming up, and so it won't be in the statute, but you'll find it in the bill, if that makes sense, because we have to get it to you to say, so say, for example, this is a statute that's going to go into effect, because it's normally, I think it's 90 days, at the end of. So once it's been approved, it's still not going, no one's going to find it in the actual statute because it won't be in there yet until that time frame. So if we're not careful, we'll put the statute and somebody will look for it and won't be able to find it because it's actually not there yet. So we can add them both, and then you can see the statute and you can see the bill and how it became and how it went through the legislation to be approved.
Yeah, it's a very good suggestion. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Does anyone else have any questions about revision KDB-R? All right, that brings us to our CUSD board agenda roadmap. Next thing we're going to do is May 5th, we have a board retreat here at the district office. And on May 10th, we have a superintendent evaluation and review of evaluation instruments by Dr. Nance. We're also doing a retirees reception at 6:30. That's all the folks that are leaving this year, or some of them anyway. Hopefully they'll be here. Outstanding students, Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month, and going over budget revision number 2 and the comprehensive audited financial report. That brings us to the 18th, 23rd, 24th, 25th. Those are going to be graduation days. So we're almost there. That brings us to the end of our normal business. We have board member current events. Ms. Mosden, would you like to go first?
Sure. I just would like to celebrate Hull Elementary's art masterpiece display that they have at the district office here in the boardroom. So I appreciate all of the students and the volunteers who work on the art masterpiece program at our schools.
Okay. Ms. Serrano, do you have anything new?
Yeah, actually, from last board meeting, I didn't have too many details to share regarding our Cinco de Mayo celebration being led by Chandler High School. We have some details now that I wanted to share. I'm proud to share that a collaboration between Chandler High's Latinx Student Union and Los Lobos Ballet Folclórico de Chandler brings us an amazing show to celebrate what they're titling La Historia de Nuestra Gente, the history of our people. Again, this will take place Friday, May 5th, or Cinco de Mayo at Chandler Center for the Arts. There will be local Chandler, this is very interesting. There will be local Chandler oral histories from Gerencia Chandler, students from Chandler's Mexican American Studies classes, community leaders, the game Loteria, and more activities during the pre-show reception that starts at 5:30. Then at 7 p.m., Los Lobos Ballet Folclórico will be dancing with sister community groups Instituto de Folclore Mexicano and Primavera Folclórico with spoken word and music that will guide us all on a celebration of nuestra cultura. I also wanted to make sure our families are aware that we want to hear from you through an important survey that's open right now. You should have received an email with subject CUSD survey to complete a short survey on the implementation of early release or late start planning time for all grades K through 12. So please do take the time to complete this short survey. By Sunday, April 30th, we're giving you until midnight, basically. So there's some time there. And if you would like to provide other input outside of the survey, please just feel free to email us, as we will consider all information and feedback we receive for the evaluation. And lastly, just special thanks to our wonderful CTA independent students who are with us today to raise awareness and educating us on behalf of our beautiful Muslim community. Quite belated Eid Mubarak to all. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Mr. Roars, do you have anything new?
Yeah, I'm just a little confused.
Oh,
Hold on a minute, let me get.
hang on a second, Joel. Let's let Kurt go.
Okay. I was busy. We had the East Valley Mayor's Prayer Breakfast next door here, right at the YMCA. Dr. Gilbert was there, and Mr. Narducci was there. Subject was teen mental health, and our table discussion revolved around, I think we're just now understanding the depth of the devastation for our kids being out of school for 2 years and how much it really affected them. The isolation, and we had a student at our table that talked about it, was really very devastating for them. One thing that I brought up was that, kids need to go out and play because they need the distractions from all the stuff that they're dealing with and just some time away from it. But sitting alone, at home in their rooms or on their phones, they're just too isolated to really cope with a lot of the pressures that are on them now. So I would really encourage parents and kids just to go outside and run around a little bit so they could feel better. I was also at Haley Elementary. Principal there, Nicole McMillian, was very kind to host me out there. Talking with the teachers, one subject that came up was project-based learning seems to be gaining a lot of momentum in the educational community. And the part to that is that application may be the best key to learning. Taking the things you learn in the classroom and applying to a project. Also think it's a lot more fun for our teachers, by the way, to work on projects with the kids because there's a lot more involvement there. And last one is Sun Lakes Rotary Club. I'm actually a member of that club. And I was there and I watched these students do their talks on the four-way test. I've never ceased to be amazed how much talent that the kids in this district have. They are really amazing. And watching some of those kids do their speech was, just, I was very, very proud of them. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Mr. Roars. Joel, do you have anything to tell us about this week?
Real briefly, we talked about the planning sessions. Is that something that we can put and show it in the roadmap?
The planning session for this coming Friday, not this Friday, but the Friday after, is in the roadmap.
I'm not seeing the date.
The 5th.
Not on there.
Go to today's.
Oh, there I see it. I see it. Okay.
Yeah.
I see it. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Joel. Okay, so what I have is I spent a long time at a security conference. It was Sunday night for 4 hours, Monday all day, and then Tuesday for half the day. And there were a lot of speakers, and it was mostly about mass shooter, active shooter kind of things. And there wasn't a lot of new information, and there wasn't a lot of people that had come up with wonderful ideas on how to keep that stuff from happening. But I did find some information that I never heard before or I didn't know. Most attacks on schools, like mass shooter attacks, happen just after coming back from a break. These are things that the Secret Service keeps up with statistics about school attacks. They actually do a really good job at that. Most of the time the motives are grievances, which if we could figure out how to keep teenagers from having grievances, we'd all be really rich. But it's mostly about grievances, mostly about bullying and things like that. And most plots that get thwarted, most plots that don't actually work and go through, don't get exposed by other kids, other students. So most of the time, if somebody's going to do some kind of attack, they'll tell one or two other kids, or they'll put it, put hints out there on the internet. And that's the way that most plots that are actually thwarted get stopped. And then also, social media is not good for teenagers. Not good for anybody, but really not good for teenagers. And that's all I learned I learned a few more things, but that's all the big things I learned at the security conference this week. That brings us to the end of our normal business, so we're going to adjourn. Everyone have a good night. Thanks, Joel.